everybody. Welcome to the Gapology Guys podcast, your source for winning leadership strategies to help you achieve your greatest potential. And tonight we're talking about training and teaching. We'll look at how they differ through the lens of Gapology and how they enhance each other when applied fully in your leadership rhythm. So let's jump right in with Martinez. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Good, Brian. How are you?
Good, good. Happy podcast day. How's your week been?
Been missing it.
Yeah, we've been off for a couple of weeks. Last week we had Barbara Baselli on the show. Did you get a chance to watch that?
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Yeah, she did great, man. A lot of great information, good energy, and I think a lot of that, the stuff that ties with IMBAR was, excellent information. So it'd be nice to stay in contact with her and hear how she's doing down the road for sure.
IMBAR is amazing. We just haven't done a great job of getting it out there yet. It's coming.
Yeah. And we're doing a little bit more here and there, and we do have a lot of things kind of in the works for everybody. So sort of stay tuned. A lot of good stuff coming down the line here. But I'm excited to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about training and teaching. So in our book, we've got two of the root solutions to close the knowledge gap. First one's training, and the second one is teaching. So we're going to talk about those two, how they are similar, how they differ, how they intertwine. I think there's a lot of interesting information there. So you want to kick it off, Mark?
Yeah, it's a great topic. I think our Gapology study, which we really looked at the winning leaders quite a bit and tried to understand why they were winning at such an incredible rate. And one of the reasons the winning leaders were winning is they all were teachers. They viewed that as their role. Training they viewed as something separate, a task, a certification, whatever that is. But they spent their day teaching. It was their role. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was really ingrained into their leadership rhythm, their process for everything.
Yeah, they planned the week out that way.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day when we were doing this, they'd pull out a flip chart and an easel or go to a whiteboard, but they were teachers. That's how they viewed the significance of achieving performance was through teaching. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I carried with me as a teacher back then 34 teachable points of view. Teachable points of view, that was a term coined by Noel Tichy, but I had 34 of them. And I would use them when appropriate, when with a given group, they needed to learn that. The amazing thing for me today is I'll get a text, an email, a phone call during the week from somebody who was impacted by one of those teachable points of view, and they will reference it 10 years, 15 years later. It became part of their leadership, part of their success. And so back then, I carved teaching in as my primary rhythm during the week. And you were there. You attended.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember a lot of those sessions. It was always interesting, kind of growing up in the retail world, you get corporate visits and they're always sort of the same. The senior leader would come in and sort of, walk the store and, do, kind of check, the counts in the store, or they'd inspect things or whatever. It was often the same, but I'll tell you, how you conducted it with the teachable points of view is far different, where the team would gather around and we'd listen and you'd have some sort of message that you wanted everyone to learn. And it dramatically changed how I saw the potential of a leader.
Yeah, you were just a general manager of a store back then.
Yep.
And hopefully my teaching changed your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, 100%.
I would walk in and share, what I'd learned from other leaders. Training is so different. It's not like training's not important. Training is different. It's certification in a specific process. It's part of a work function. It's different. But when you're with a group of leaders and you discover a gap, the leader needs to step in and teach. And it can truly change the career, the life of the team that you're with. And it is of great significance. And in Gapology, we talked also about how to achieve organizational wisdom. Well, that's about the only way you'll get there, is through leaders truly sharing what they know and how it applies to what you're doing. I would walk into a store and observe the behaviors, and from the behaviors, gather what needed to be taught and pull the leaders together and teach. And that was my daily rhythm. It wasn't a one-off. It was all the time. And even the great leaders like yourself were taught things in that teaching that changed your leadership style, your performance, what you taught within the team. It was significant.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and in Gapology, we have something called the Teaching Organization Pyramid. And I know you mentioned this, organizational wisdom. And I think this is an important pyramid. In our book, we have it sort of toward the end, because it's almost a culmination of the importance of everything that we've taught throughout the book until that point, where we begin with the bottom level as teaching as a value, creating value around teaching in your organization. And then the next thing is learning, thinking, and insight, which that comes from having valued the teaching, culture in the team. And then behavior changes that next level. And then from there is improved execution. Okay. And then the last level is wisdom. And I think that pyramid really speaks to creating a culture of teaching within a team.
Yeah, it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's a quote. What is it? Teaching ain't telling.
Yeah.
Telling ain't teaching.
Telling a teaching.
You know,
Yeah.
that's so true.
Right.
So often a leader will overestimate what they've said in terms of its connection with the team. And they need to truly teach. And when you teach, you also verify understanding. And it's amazing how that changes everything. The challenge today is that remote work, people working from home, virtual meetings, meetings that are not in person, they're up on that screen. They require leaders to be better than ever. You've got to be a great teacher. You've got to determine where the gaps are and close those gaps. You cannot assume that they're closed by some, video virtual meeting you conducted. You've got to verify. You know, I know you live in this world today. I mean, you've got to know that the team connected with the teaching you're delivering or with the training you're delivering. So leaders as teachers, really an unbeatable, scenario. It works.
Yeah, yeah. And I would invite everyone to, if you go back, I think it was 2023, that we did a whole series on leading in the Zoom world. So, the sort of virtual world that many of us are in now, we did a whole series on it with Gapology Radio. This just the audio version of the podcast. And I would invite people to go back and listen to some of those episodes. There's some really good stuff in there because it is critical to shift how we lead, because the whole environment that we lead within is far different today.
Yeah, today what we found is many leaders assume incorrectly that their message over the virtual meeting was clear. Mm-hmm. And they don't have an effective method of verification. So Brian got the message, didn't he? I talked about it. That's not good enough. One of the best methods we've found, and it's truly incredibly effective, is random recaps. So if you as a leader use random recaps and your team knows you're going to use them, their notes and their attention is at a totally different level. So what if your team knew that 15 minutes into the meeting, you were going to turn to them and say, hey, Brian, picking on you for the moment, walk me through the most significant notes you have so far. Wow. He better be ready. And then the leader says, what did he miss? And he turns to someone else in the room. And if every virtual meeting is conducted with random recaps, you can create an engagement level within the team that isn't there today that helps the entire team learn and changes the effectiveness of training and teaching in the virtual world. So random recaps are your best friend. If you're not using them, go for it. They're incredibly effective. What do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah, no, they're very effective. A couple of things I would say with that is, first of all, set the expectation for random recaps. You're going to have in your room, you're going to have extroverts that they're the ones who always raise their hand. They're always the ones volunteering information, asking questions. But you're also going to have those introverts in the room who oftentimes they have many of the best ideas because they just process information internally. So they're hearing, they're listening, they're processing, they're not necessarily sharing. Those random recaps give those people an opportunity to actually speak and contribute. I think it's incredibly important. And setting the expectation up front sets the stage for it. So if you let everybody know, this is the culture that we have. We're going to ask these random questions. We're going to ask for these recaps. We're going to have you, think on the spot about things. It sort of shifts how people listen and participate in a meeting. If your typical culture is just observing, watching the leader, give their show or whatever, uh, if that's your culture, they're not going to be ready for it, and that can create some fear. So what I would say is set the stage for it. I think the participation will be, more. I think more important, but also the quality is going to be there.
Yeah, yeah, well said. So just so everyone's clear, we're saying that the winning leaders that we observed were teachers, that was one of their characteristics, and that they were outperforming the rest of the group substantially. Those that were trainers didn't come close to those that were teachers. Big difference. Training's a module that needs to be completed. You follow up that is completed. Teaching is a way of life. It's a behavior that we saw in the winning leaders. They outperformed everyone and couldn't be touched. One of the reasons, and we learned it later, was because of the equation T times M equals P. And we've talked about T times M equals P many times. So picture talent, scale of 0 to 10, mindset, scale of 0 to 10, equals performance, 0 to 100. Winning leaders drove up the T, the talent level of their teams, by teaching. When they drove up the T, the talent level, so let's say it went from a 6 to a 7 today, they drove up the mindset from a 6 to a 7 as well. Think about that. That changed everything. That learner in the group, that subordinate of that leader, because they were being taught things, had a better mindset. They felt valued, and it changed the equation. And we talked many times about 7 by 7 equaling 49 and the rule of 49. The winning leaders got there and beyond regularly because they were teachers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those core human needs is to grow. People want to grow. So when you feed them, when you feed them new information, new skills, new training, new development, you focus on their well-being and you're helping them to grow. That's really going to, boost that mindset overall.
Yeah, you're teaching them things that they may use for their entire career.
Yeah, totally. Change their whole
It's
paradigm about the whole.
it's
Yeah.
significant. They don't forget it either. So I don't know if you remember this, Brian, but I carried with me in a leather bound journal 34 teachable points of view. 34. So I'd walk into a scenario and I would determine what the team needed, if they needed a teachable point of view. And I would stop the group, interrupt the group, and teach them something that would change totally the view and the paradigm of what they were focused on. But 34 teachable points of view. And I hear about them. This is crazy. I hear about them all the time from those that we used to work with. I mean, 20 years ago, I was teaching that, and they bring it up. I talked to someone the other day that I hadn't talked to in 10 years, and they brought up a teachable point of view that I taught them that is of great significance. I want to share some of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
So the biggest one was probably Gapology. So I would teach Gapology, closing the knowledge gap, closing the importance gap, and closing the action gap, and how that would impact their results in dramatic fashion. And that, because it became such an incredible teachable point of view, it became a book that we were challenged to write. And we did. We did. And I'm sure a million people have benefited from it. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
17 million last time I checked, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously that's our flagship, right? But it's more than that. It's more than a framework. It's more than just a model. It's just a way of leading. And when you take all the composite of all the pieces in Gapology, it really sets that stage for that long-term winning success.
Yeah. So those of you out there, likely you know Gapology, turn it into your own teachable point of view and be able to give a 5-minute version of it. And you can totally impact people. I've heard stories of people who took it home to their kids and everything changed at school. And I mean, it simply works. The second one that I taught a lot was T times M equals P, that talent multiplied by mindset equals performance. And that talent, therefore, is equal to mindset in terms of determining performance. That one was unbelievable in terms of its impact and its impact on athletes. In fact, I teach athletes that today. And it is so true and so impactful. I got a few more. I'll let you comment on T times M equals P.
Yeah, no, yeah, that one's a big one, because people do just focus on the talent piece. They're always developing their talent, always working on their skills, learning new things, but they don't usually pause to consider their mindset and how that impacts their overall performance. So I think that is a big one, Mark.
That's huge.
Mhm.
The next one is the habit ladder, and it's a key component of Gapology. But often I would teach it to a group that didn't understand it, and it could have the most significant impact on them that anything else could. I remember teaching that. Where was I? I was in Dallas, Texas, teaching Pepsi Gapology, and they caught on to the habit ladder, and it made it to the CEO. The habit ladder is incredible. It's part of Gapology, but taught in and of itself changes leaders' perspective on everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say this one, and there's one other one, and you may touch on this one, the other one as well.
I got
But
two more.
okay, there's another one I'm just waiting because I'm sure that's one of them. But the habit ladder for me is one of those ones that has changed how I see everything. When even when you're talking about the virtual workforce and remote teams and leading in a remote team environment, as you're talking about that, I'm like, well, what they need to do is use the habit ladder. So, communicate, but ensure that you validate understanding, verify agreement and commitment, that your team is actually working on the things with having some sort of feedback. They're practicing what they need to do, and they're reinforcing and recognizing habit. That needs to happen in a remote work team. So as you're saying it, that habit ladder popped in my head. I'm like, that is their method for leading in a remote workforce world.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time. I see it in meetings. I see all these opportunities for it to apply. And that's where I think the power of teachable points of view can really come into play. If you can take what you know and put it in a way that you can make it relatable to everybody, and you just have that in the back in your back pocket or in your leather bound notebook or whatever you have, and be able to bring that to the surface quickly and impactfully, it can change everybody's lives.
Yeah, the habit ladder's unbeatable.
Mhm.
It works everywhere, every time. It works at every age. It's great for kids. It's great for, yeah. I'm so proud of the habit ladder, which I really discovered during my Gapology research, and it's amazing. The next one, and the maybe the biggest, and we just haven't got there yet, is Zimbar.
That's the one I was waiting for.
So
Yeah.
we learned that the identity of a leader or an individual creates their mindset, which creates their behavior, which creates the actions of those around them, which creates their outcomes, their results. IMBAR. And it's amazing. And you can literally plug and play and create the MBAR, of your dreams and change everything. The number of people whose lives have been changed by MBAR is amazing, but it's truly life changing. And when you learn it, you say, "Oh, I got it, and I own this, and I can impact my results, whatever those may be." I hear about MBAR every week, so you can really become or achieve whatever you want to achieve or whoever you want to become using MBAR. So we wrote a book on it, so find it and get it. It's really unbelievable. But I would teach it as a teachable point of view in a, what do you think, a 10-minute session with a
Yep.
group, and there would be people in that group whose lives changed forever because of a 10-minute teachable point of view from a leader. They suddenly saw everything differently. I hear about it today. I heard about it today. Come to think of it, a few hours ago, someone was talking to me about how MBAR had changed their world and their outcomes. I just
Yeah.
thought it was something that the teams needed to know and that the leaders could capitalize on, and it's so true.
Yeah. So the thing I would say about IMBAR, I think it's a responsibility of leaders to learn it because you will encounter hundreds and hundreds of situations where you can pull that out as your teachable point of view. If someone's struggling in their job, somebody's struggling within a project, somebody's struggling with interpersonal relations on a team, there's all sorts of scenarios where a shift in someone's identity and mindset is critical to their success and their ability to move forward. I think everyone needs to learn it. Pick up the book, even if you just sort of, go through the executive summary in it, just learn the basics. It will change your life. It will change how you lead and how you see yourself and your team. I think it's incredibly important for people to grasp.
We need to get that one on Audible.
Yeah, we do. I keep telling Jolene, so I think I'm starting to break her down where she's willing to tackle
It
another
only
book.
takes 80 hours.
I'm not sure about that, but
Let's do it. So
yeah,
the last one I would bring up was speed of purpose. We found that the purpose of a team totally changed the results of a team, and that those with purpose performed at 2.8 times those without. And we wrote a book around that. Again, we haven't told you much about it, but we developed a method to quickly move towards speed of purpose. And we created a 3x3 similar to Gapology. And I used to teach that on how to achieve speed of purpose. And those that learned it, amazing, amazing. And again, a leader, once they learn this, they can teach it elsewhere. and it affects others. And you never know when the person you're teaching is going to take it and teach it to 1,000 other people and change everything. So it's really unbelievable. So that was the last one I listed out of my 34. There's many more, but
Yeah.
those are the big ones.
Yeah. And that's a good one too. And what I would say is, Mark has 34 of these. Think about how many you can create, our viewers. Think of how many you guys can create. Take the ones that we have, put those into your repertoire, but also think about your life experience, the things that you've gone through, the things that you've learned. Make those teachable. Make those teachable moments. First of all, don't discount training. So when we're looking at training versus teaching, don't discount training. Use the habit ladder. Work your training processes through that lens. That's incredibly important. But looking at teaching and what you can do there, taking all of your life experiences and culling them down into, a collection of messages that you can teach your team, in whatever scenario that they're facing. That's an incredible power that you have in your back pocket.
Yeah. So well said.
Yeah.
So teaching was a characteristic of the top performing leaders. Not training, teaching. Training they did it well, but teaching different, and they excelled there. So, and carry your teachable points of view with you, because when you walk into a scenario, you never know which one it is that you'll need. So, yeah. Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
That's all
right, very
I got.
good, Mark. That's a great place to leave it. All right, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, great talking to you.
All right, thanks, everybody. Okay, that's a wrap for tonight. For more information on everything we discussed and much more, head on over to our website, gapology.org. Everyone have a fantastic week. Talk to you soon.